This is the Buffalo Community Podcast, all about the greatest small town in the USA, the people in it, and how it all works together. Here are your hosts, Tyler Reese and Mark Benzer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Community Podcast, powered by
North Star Pro Realty.
Do Your Forge thing.
Oh, Forge!
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. So, no guest today. So we are without our life jacket.
Our crutch.
Without our crutch. So I suppose that means a lot of you will probably keep scrolling or find something else to watch or listen to. But
we're going to be talking about babies.
Talking about babies and being dads. And it's been 14 years since I've had a brand new baby, but our producer Luke Edlund and his wife Katie are expecting baby number 2
getting there
in January. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to try to live vicariously through Luke and try to remember the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows of young kids.
Better get your sleep now there, Luke.
Yeah. Hey, Luke, it goes fast. Enjoy every minute.
Yeah.
The days are long, but the years fly by.
Insert cliche from me, too.
Yeah. So, even before the baby's born, right? I miss some of that stuff of just feeling a baby in the tummy and that whole process. And you're kind of going through it right now. So what's it like? Remind me.
Yeah, it's definitely unique, like a unique stage of life. I mean, our pregnancies with Jack and then with our current baby, we're so different. And so it's so interesting learning like, oh, you can actually have this exact same thing happen in life that's completely different than the previous time. Oh. So that's pretty fascinating. Seeing baby kick in the belly, that's always insane. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels so alien, like seeing that kind of movement and like, that's weird.
That was an elbow.
Does Katie enjoy that? Because I've talked to moms before. Like, I'm not a part of a mom's group, but like my wife or, and like, oh, I love that feeling, that. I said, well, it looks uncomfortable to me. Like, does she enjoy it?
I think there's the aspect that most people love is like, I'm seeing my baby move, and that's pretty, an incredible experience. But then there's the aspect of like, this person is elbowing and nuzzling and and moving around, and like it's sometimes painful, and so she doesn't love that aspect of it.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the most cool and weirdest experiences as a dad, seeing like your baby that's not out in the oxygen yet moving around in your wife's stomach like that. It's just nuts. Womb. Yeah, not just in the intestines.
Contrary to popular belief, they're not actually in stomachs.
Where the stomach would be.
Thanks, Tyler.
No problem.
Everybody loves this guy.
Give us another anatomy lesson here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're 6-7 weeks away from our due date. Katie's scheduled for a C-section. I don't know, cesarean section.
Ask Tyler, he'll tell you.
C-section.
Cesarean. There it is.
Caesarean.
It's Italian.
Is that like being part of northern Minneapolis?
Yeah. I think so. It's pretty similar. So she's scheduled for that. So there's some predictability as much as like you can predict these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super exciting. Jack came by C-section and then stayed in the NICU for like 4 days. So hopefully we don't have to have that experience again.
Yeah.
But,
Was that unexpected with Jack?
It was. Yeah. We tried naturally. Didn't work out. And he wanted to stay in there as long as he could.
Right.
And sometimes it seems like he's trying to get back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That same thing happened with our oldest, Emma. She's not coming out. She's been blessed with my large head. Jack might have been blessed with your large head too. I say that as a term of endearment. So yeah, it was a bit scary when you're thrown into it, but boy, the professionals that we had on there, it was bam. I was so glad to have those people around me. But then the twins were planned C-section at that point. Did you go into, or do you plan to be in the surgery room?
Yeah, I went in the first time, and I plan to be in the second time. I don't think I've ever had issues with blood or anything like that. Not someone that faints from those kind of things. I did have like a heart condition where I fainted a lot as a kid.
Oh wow!
But that was not. It was
Tell us more about that.
Well, it was neurally mediated syncope, and I have no idea what that means.
Can't say cesarean, but he can say that.
Yeah.
Well, I forced myself to memorize it because I have no idea what it is. But I think it's actually more of a neural would imply it's brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just randomly when your heart would typically speed up when you stand up, or when you get lightheaded when you stand up. Mine wouldn't speed up to catch up, and so I would stand up and then I would just go right back down.
We've known you for years. How do we only find this out now?
Well, it didn't happen all the time, and it was such a small portion of my life that I never really think about it. But
if it happens again, then at least we have the background to say, oh, like Luke didn't just die.
He's like one of those fainting goats where you scare him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not something I'm worried about as far as, seeing blood or seeing the surgery and not being able to handle it. But yeah, I mean, I usually bring in one of these cameras and try to document it. So
you just can't shut it off, can you?
No,
you just
always
on the job.
I mean, you think back in the day when your dad or your parents maybe had the old handy cam on the shoulder.
Definitely on the shoulder.
Maybe you guys were those dads.
No,
that's my version of that. I would bring in one of these cameras and take photos, take video, and then one day be able to show my kids that. Not that they'll want to see the C-section, maybe, but
someday they will. Someday.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Does Jack understand what's going on? Is he excited? Is he getting into that point where, what the heck? I want to be the only part of attention right now.
I think it's hard to know exactly what he understands. I think he gets that there's a baby in there.
How old is he? Let's start with that.
Jack is 2. And so he's has the understanding of a 2-year-old. So he'll point to mama's belly and say, "Oh, baby," and he kiss mama's belly. So I think he kind of understands, but I think he'll be surprised when we bring a human home.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't leave.
Right. Okay.
So this has been fun now.
This has been good, but I think I need
can't thank you enough for the time.
Yeah, me and my parents need to probably get some snacks.
My mom and dad.
Yeah.
It's our
so
mom and dad.
as dads that have been through this before, was it difficult when you brought your second child home and your first one had to realize, oh, I'm not alone anymore. It's not just me.
So my experience, my kids are only 15 months apart. And so my oldest is a girl. And I think that might make a little bit of a difference because they have that motherly. And so I think she was 15 months old when Nolan came home, and I think still not, I mean, that's her brother, but I think it was more like a doll, something to love on, essentially. So I don't, and again, there's so much I don't remember, but I don't think we had those issues, but whether it's personality or gender or age, all of those things I think played into, the transition from being an only child for 15 months to, having a younger sibling.
Are they close now?
Very.
Yeah.
Very.
That's nice.
Yep.
I think there's some days that because my kids, I never went from 1 to 2.
Oh,
we went from 1 to 3. So speaking a little bit differently, but they're only 18 months apart. And then 1 minute apart. So kind of going from that transition, I think, Emma, same exact thing. It was just my boys, she calls them her boys now. Yeah. But I think she would want to return them occasionally now. She just turned 11 yesterday. So they're, she's growing up. She's kind of entering those teenage years, and I might not have hair for much longer, but, and the boys are getting in their own experiences. Her shoulders are getting a little more broad. So, I mean, they're only 9, but so it's really exciting to see them grow up and get their own hobbies and their own friends, their own personalities. But as far as they've always been a pretty tight-knit group of kids because they've been so close. So, how much understanding does an 18-month-old have other than cheese is good? So cheese was a big part of our growing up. So.
It's still a big part of Jack's everyday life.
Yeah. So, some of those parts that I remember just kind of feeling of when the boys came home was,
Oh my gosh.
hey, the scared, 2 a.m. feedings of just like, oh, wow, this is a lot. But I see that the part, I remember it fondly of just like, I don't shudder. I don't miss any sleep, so it's something like, that was such a fun time. And boy, did it go really, really fast. So,
but like, it's funny what you remember. Like, it's funny that, and I feel like this is the case for most people, is you tend to remember the good, and there's some pretty miserable, I'll say dark times. And I can only imagine with twins it's worse, but it's just like where this is really hard, and this is, I'm not happy, like, nothing is about me anymore, ever. Like, nothing's ever about me, and you get through it. And then your kids are 14 and 15, and you look back and you're like, God, I miss that. I wish I could do that again. That was awesome. But I think there's a blessing in there in terms of a little of that amnesia, because otherwise nobody would have second kids.
Yeah. Not that I want to have a baby, like a new one. I'm a little bit jealous you get to experience, we have fond memories of that again. So I wish you and you and Katie and Jack for that matter, that experience of like, these are definitely core memories, which is really, really fun. And, we kind of joked like, oh, let's give parenting advice. Well, it's just from Dad's point of views. And some of my favorites are, I really enjoy documenting my kids of just like, it's not all, nice little photos. One of my favorites is Emma was so upset. I forget. I think she bit one of the boys or lied or something like that. And I told her to apologize, and she would not. I mean, and they're still pretty young. We're still in our first house, but there's a picture on Facebook. I'll find it someday and show it to you. But she's like, face is red, tears going down, and she's just pointing. And the unsolicited advice from a Facebook comment from a gal that didn't have any kids at that time said, oh, you can't be doing that to a kid. You shouldn't be putting them in a corner and forcing them to apologize. That's teaching them how to lie. And I thought, whatever, you crazy lady. I thought, this is fun. Good luck.
Thank you for your feedback.
I can't thank you enough for the time. So, but it's all those things, and obviously it's fun sharing those experiences with people, and every day's different.
So I think the moral of the story, Luke, is if you ever need parenting advice, go onto Facebook and say, I need parenting advice.
Yeah.
And
what do you think of my 2-year-old's tattoo?
Yeah, preferably from people who don't have kids. I want you to tell me how to raise my kid.
No, that's awesome. What are you most looking forward to in the next month, 2 months?
One thing. It's like everything, I guess, but not everything.
Yeah.
I think for me, like just meeting her. You feel like her obviously in the womb, but it's a whole different thing. Like I remember first time holding Jack, and like how everything in my life just changed. Like before it was just me and Kate, and like we would go out and do whatever we want and live our own lives. And then all of a sudden there's this person that we're responsible for keeping alive and raising in
goal
a
number
good
one.
way. And so I'm excited for that again, to be able to hold her for the first time and then just get that overwhelming feeling of responsibility of like, this is a person that I need to keep alive, goal number one. Yeah. But then also like, how do I instill, good values? How do I instill, part of me into this person to say, I want you to be a good person. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm a little bit jealous, but
But I'm glad it's you.
I mean, I won't sleep for 6 months.
That's
You can be
exactly
jealous
it. Like
of that,
Luke's
too.
going to come into the studio and he's going to look like
All right,
crap
just
and-
push start. Let's go. Come on, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Or he's gonna like pan over to him, and you're just gonna hear this in the background. Yeah, exactly. all right. So welcome for coming into the community podcast. Could you just please be quiet? Look, he just had a baby 6 months ago. His wife did, so he didn't except for all fun parts in the beginning part. So
Oh, we got a little ASMR there
Yeah,
almost.
right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
what does that mean?
It's this new thing. We'll do a podcast episode on it sometime.
Okay.
It is not new, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
New to
I'm
me.
about to learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, boomer.
Here, let me show you what ASMR is.
It's not really showing me.
That's literally like you go to an ASMR channel and it's literally just like people
Just like white noise.
doing things in front of a mic and
Whispering.
talking like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really strange, but people watch it,
Yep.
Wow.
so it's a thing.
Wouldn't this be crazy if this is the one that blows up? Of just
I
like
sure hope so.
25 million viewers. And then said we're all wrong on our parenting. So, okay. Well, anyway, we wish you the best. We thank everybody for watching. Give us your best parenting advice or story in the comments below. It'd be fun to read them.
Post fun photos from
Yeah.
the lowlights of your parenting experiences.
Yeah. That's great. Or better yet, your parents' photos of your childhood. I think everybody's got the ones with the beer cans or the cigarettes in the background, from like growing up in the 1980s, and those the 1900s. But anyway, so.
Cool.
All right. Buffalo Community Podcast. I'm Tyler Reese.
Mark Benzer.
Luke Edlund. Thanks for listening to the Buffalo Community Podcast, produced by Edlund Media. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts.